Darkcast Network, indie pods with a dark side.
We in medical science are well. Cancer is one of the most deadly and elusive enemies faced by man. All too often, it is that goes untreated until at last it is found that cancer has been present for many months.
If you Google America's Most Haunted Hotel, one of the first, if not the very first, is for a website literally named americasmosthauntedhotel.com. I don't know about you, but when I think of spooky hotels, the Stanley Hotel in Colorado pops to the forefront of my brain. Thank you, Stephen King. However, when you click on that link, the Stanley isn't the hotel in reference.
For our final installment of Wicked Wednesday, we're going to take you to the beautiful Ozark Mountains and to the town of Eureka Springs. The Crescent Hotel had a roller coaster of history that we will go over today. But before we dive into that, I want to talk about a funny, spooky article that our listener, Sean, sent us. Amber and I aren't really into the royal family or anything associated with it. However, William and Kate supposedly live in a haunted house, and that is right up our alley. So, when William and Kate got married in 2011, Will's grandma, the Queen of England, gave them a house. But not just any house. Amner Hall, an estate built in 1802.
When the couple were preparing to move in, they were informed that the spirit of a murdered Catholic priest had taken up residence in the home. Surprisingly unbothered, it is said that William's reaction to this was something to the effect of, "No old home would be complete without a ghost, right?" Fair. According to a paranormal historian, Richard Felix, a Catholic priest who lived in the home was hanged and quartered for high treason. He then returned home to haunt it for all eternity. We have to admit the facts don't really add up, though. It's assumed that the priest in question was Henry Walpole, who was killed in 1595, and the home wasn't built until 1802.
So, maybe he was killed in the area and haunts the estate that was built where he died? Or maybe the home is haunted by a different ghost altogether. Either way, the fact that the future King of England lives in a haunted house and seems to be on board with it is very amusing and makes him seem a little more relatable. Thanks, Sean, for sending over that Vanity Fair article. Sean and her husband, John, just started a new podcast called Sins and Survivors that focuses on domestic violence cases in Las Vegas, where they live. We actually met them at the True Crime and Paranormal Podcast Festival here in Austin, and they are very good people. So check it out. And if you want to be cool like them and send us stories, please do. We will share them on future episodes. And with that, it's time to get into the Crescent Hotel. I'm Gina.
And I'm Amber.
And let's get into our last Wicked Wednesday of this year's spooky month.
Native Americans were already well aware of the beauty of the natural springs surrounded by forests and cliffs. So when others discovered the natural haven, the town of Eureka Springs was founded in 1879. In just a year's time, there were already 2,000 homes and over 15,000 people living there. The governor at the time, Powell Clayton, realized the town had the potential to become something great. So with the help of the Eureka Springs Improvement Company, they sought to transform the town to benefit from the land's healing properties and soon brought in the Frisco Railroad to help with the town's growth. Eureka Springs already had a reputation for being a healing retreat, so they thought that a resort and spa would be beneficial, especially with the promise of new visitors coming via the railroad.
Construction on the hotel began in 1884 and would be built to showcase the region's natural beauty. In 1886, the Crescent Hotel was completed atop Crescent Mountain and referred to as an architectural masterpiece. The breathtaking views, along with top-notch amenities, backed up the hotel's reputation for being a premier destination for the elite. For the next 15 years, the Eureka Springs Improvement Company operated the hotel, and it became an exclusive hotspot complete with grandiose ballrooms, exceptional service, and magnificent dining experiences. In 1902, the hotel was leased to the Frisco Railroad for 5 years. During the winter months, business in the hotel slowed down, and so the Crescent College was opened and provided an extensive educational program for women and remained an operational hotel during the prime summer months. During its run, the college attracted students from all over the country, empowered them in their pursuit of knowledge, and provided them with excellent opportunities up until it closed in 1934.
In 1937, the Crescent Hotel was acquired by Norman G. Baker. Whew, boy, where do we begin with this one? Well, guess we'll go back to the beginning before we circle back to the Crescent Hotel. Norman Glenwood Baker was born on November 27, 1882, as the 10th and final child to parents John and Frances Baker of Muscatine, Iowa. His father operated Baker Manufacturing Company, and his mother, prior to her marriage, had written extensively. What? I don't really know, but she did, apparently.
She wrote about things.
Norman dropped out of high school after his sophomore year to work in machine shops and eventually went on to become a vaudevillain. I had to look that up, by the way, as I've heard the term in the past, sure, but I couldn't really visualize what the hell that meant. Thanks to good old Google, vaudeville is a theatrical genre of variety entertainment, usually comprised of performers like musicians, singers, dancers, comedians, trained animals, magicians, etc. While he was doing his vaudeville shtick, he married a fortune teller, but eventually moved back to Muscatine by 1914, where he founded the Tangley Company. The company had several operations, including manufacturing calliopes, mail order catalogs, and pamphlets for the aspiring fortune teller or mesmerist.
So what is a calliope?
So it's an air-blown musical instrument.
Interesting.
And he created the Tangley calliophone, which is similar to a calliope.
Okay. Interesting. I'm trying to picture that in my head. We will find a picture and post it, because if you're as clueless as I am, you have no idea what that means. Cool. He made some sort of air-blown instrument. Great for him. Good job. Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, as you can tell, he was a performer and a salesman at heart, and he realized he needed a way to reach a bigger client base for his products. So he established the Naked Truth magazine and Muscatine radio station, KTNT. He seemed so down to earth to the rural Americans throughout Iowa and the Midwest, and that proved to be quite beneficial for attracting new customers for his next venture, the Baker Hospitals. In 1930, he established the Baker Hospital in Muscatine with claims through his publications and radio broadcasts that he could cure cancer. Yep, he was one of those guys. Should come as no surprise, but he also didn't have any medical background whatsoever. His advertisements for his treatments included graphic before and after photos of his patients, which proved to be very persuasive to the public. Gross.
Naturally. The American Medical Association pressured the Federal Radio Commission to shut down Baker, and he lost his license in 1931. Business at the hospital declined after he lost his radio broadcasting, so he responded by suing the AMA for calling him a quack, but the trial in 1932 didn't go his way. That same year, he opened a radio station, XENT, in Mexico with a 100,000-watt transmitter, ensuring his broadcast reached far and wide. I think I read for comparison, the typical radio station broadcast is like 5 to 10,000
Oh,
watts.
geez.
So, yeah, he went above and beyond. So he continued to market his cancer cures, and in 1937, he purchased the Crescent Hotel and transformed it into the Baker Cancer Clinic. He dubbed it as the Castle in the Air and continued broadcasting his claims over the radio, saying he could cure cancer without resorting to surgical procedures. Needless to say, we have established that was all bullshit. His cure was nothing more than extracts from watermelon seeds, corn silk, and clover. Patients who came to Baker's hospital were promised that if he didn't cure them in 3 to 6 weeks, they could return for one more treatment, free of charge except for board, room, and transportation. His examinations consisted of palpitating patients and pinching them and looking at them. Also, not a single microscope was in the facility. And wouldn't you know, he even offered treatment for lesser conditions like hemorrhoids and varicose veins, using the same bullshit methods as his cancer patients.
During his reign at the Crescent Hotel, Norman made some modifications to the place. He painted the interior lavender and purple, and also ensured his safety by providing an escape route from his office suite on the first floor, concealing a hidden staircase. A 6-sided desk in his office served as the nerve center for his 6 different businesses. Paranoia was rampant in his life, and he had his office sealed in bulletproof glass and kept 2 submachine guns within reach. You would think that his downfall would have been the whole practicing medicine without a single credential to back it up, situation. But no, and it certainly wasn't without the authorities trying. Mail fraud is what finally took him down. In 1940, his extensive literature, Where Sick Folks Get Well, caught the attention of postal inspectors, and he was tried on charges of mail fraud. He spent March of 1941 to July of 1944 at the federal penitentiary in Leavenworth, Kansas. In 1946, he tried to unsuccessfully reopen his Muscatine facility, and afterward, he lived on a 3-story yacht where he died of cirrhosis of the liver on September 8, 1958. While it's not 100% certain what his patients endured during their stay, it is safe to say it probably wasn't pleasant, as they were suffering from cancer and not receiving the proper treatment they needed. God, what an ass.
Yeah. And that's scratching the surface of his bullshit.
He sounds like a very mentally unwell person.
Stand-up guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The hotel went through some much-needed renovations in 1946 following Norman's reign of terror, and some more changes in ownership. The 4 new owners wanted to restore the hotel to its former glory and start offering travel vacation packages in partnership with the Frisco Railroad. Think like early Priceline and Expedia packages. This move brought a wave of tourists to Eureka Springs, giving them an unforgettable experience of luxurious hotel accommodations and scenic train journeys. Unfortunately, in 1967, faulty wiring was thought to be the cause of a devastating fire on the penthouse level and a large portion of the 4th floor of the hotel, thus prompting even more renovations and repairs. 5 years later, the hotel changed ownership yet again, and this time their goal for the hotel was to perform more renovations and incorporate modern amenities as well. This first phase of the plan was to restore the property and expand the facilities. This is when the first recorded rounds of supernatural occurrences happened, which we'll get into shortly.
In 1985, the year of my birth, no less, after some more changes in ownership, the iconic Crystal Ballroom was the site for a sold-out concert by Willie Nelson, while Bill Clinton, governor at the time, delivered a keynote speech at an annual chamber banquet. 3 years later, more ownership changes, but on February 28, 1997, Marty and Eloise Rennick became the new owners despite the hotel's dilapidated condition, with the goal of saving it from complete ruin. In May of 2000, they held a grand garden party at the hotel's Fountain Garden and announced their 10-year plan to restore the Crescent Hotel. The fifth floor, that had been destroyed in the fire, was one of the projects for restoration. The skyline was recreated of the original structure, and the interior was designed as living quarters for the Rennicks. Victorian color schemes were applied to the walls, as well as historically themed furnishings, bathroom renovations, and redesigns to make the 19th century more appealing to the modern-day guests.
In 2008, 4 two-bedroom treetop cottages were added to the hotel's 15-acre property atop the mountain, and a new conservatory was built on the site of the original conservatory used by the Crescent College to enrich their wedding offerings, because what place could be better for a beautiful mountain view wedding venue?
Mm-hmm.
The New Moon Spa was also added, which occupied the entire garden level of the hotel. It initially offered spa services, but expanded to include full hair, nail, and makeup for guests and brides. Unfortunately, in June 2009, Marty Rennick was involved in a two-vehicle collision near Griswold, Iowa. Eloise was driving their 2006 Ford van at the time of the collision around 8:42 p.m. According to a police report, their van ran a stop sign at an intersection and was struck by a 1999 Ford F-350 pickup. The driver of the truck and 3 passengers in the truck were injured. Eloise suffered a broken arm, but Marty was pronounced dead at the scene. Despite the tragedy, Eloise continued to carry on his goals and remained a loving owner of the Crescent Hotel, proudly known today as the symbol of Arkansas hospitality.
That isn't the only thing the hotel is referred to as, though. As mentioned at the beginning of the episode, the Crescent Hotel has gained the reputation as America's most haunted hotel over the past 25 years, mostly thanks to the 17 or so national and international paranormal TV shows that have featured the location. To make matters worse, in 2019, an enormous stash of old glass bottles was found buried in the woods near the hotel. Many were broken, some were filled with alcohol, and some still had small bits of unidentified tissue floating inside of them. The area had been taped off like it was a crime scene, and law enforcement worked with archaeologists to launch an excavation to the site. There were so many bottles, literally hundreds, that a lot were still left in the ground. This, of course, coincided with the stories of the morgue, with an autopsy table and a cadaver walk-in cooler still left in the basement of the hotel from Baker's reign as owner, as well as the other paranormal encounter stories we're about to go over.
Room 218 has become known as Michael's Room. Back when the hotel was being constructed, an Irish stonemason fell to his death and has been known to hang out in that specific room. He's classified as a poltergeist due to the nature of the unexplained activity associated with him and Room 218. Michael's Room is the most spiritually active in the hotel and is the site that has attracted television crews for decades. Guests have reported seeing hands coming out of the bathroom mirror, cries of a man falling in the ceiling, the door opening and slamming shut, only to be unable to be opened again. This room is the most requested room as well, according to the hotel website booking page, like it literally says on the webpage to book it. Housekeepers report meeting Theodora in room 419. She introduces herself as a cancer patient of Dr. Baker's and vanishes after courtesies are verbally exchanged. She has also been seen outside the door fumbling with her keys, as well as tidying up for guests when they leave the room. Now, That's a ghostly encounter that I wouldn't mind having. Hell, I don't
Mm-mm.
think I'd mind having a ghost like that in my own house if all they did was clean up.
Could you imagine? That would be like the best possible haunting to have. Like, yeah, the house is haunted, but they just clean up
They just clean,
after us. It's fine.
Our buddy. Just,
My God,
husband and children can't clean up after themselves, so I've got a ghost to do it.
the ghost can. Oh man. Speaking of Dr. Baker, though, he has reportedly been seen in the hotel lobby, described as a man in a purple shirt. Clearly, he loved the color purple. Remember, he did paint the inside of the hotel purple and lavender.
Exactly.
And white linen suit matching photographs of him. A nurse pushing a gurney residing in Dr. Baker's old morgue area is known to squeak and rattle down the halls of the hotel. The laundry room, located next to Dr. Baker's old morgue, is where a maintenance man witnessed all of the washers and dryers mysteriously turning on in the middle of the night. Another ghost sighting reported is of Brecky, a 4-year-old child of Richard and Mary Breckenridge Thompson, who died in the hotel due to complications from appendicitis. He's usually seen throughout the hotel bouncing a ball. A hotel haunting is not complete without a small child with a toy.
Naturally.
It's a necessity. Room 212 used to be the office of Dr. John Fremont Ellis, the hotel's in-house doctor during the late 19th century. He is most often seen, or rather his cherry pipe tobacco is smelled, near his office. Another sighting is of Morris, the famed hotel cat who was known as the general manager for 21 years and was buried on the property and is regularly seen and heard.
Many employees have encountered playful spirits in Victorian dress in the Crystal dining room. One time, during the holiday season, when the dining room was closed, the chairs moved to circle and face the grand Christmas tree and packages. Another time, the employees returned in the morning to find that the dining room was in perfect order, except for menus that had been scattered throughout the room. Yet another time, a waitress looked into the huge mirror between the doors from the dining room to the kitchen and saw a man and a woman in Victorian garb facing each other as in a wedding. Shortly after this encounter, the woman quit her job.
I don't get paid enough for this.
Many others have reported seeing apparitions wearing Victorian ball attire dancing around the room during the early morning hours while the room is closed and dark. Another commonly reported encounter is of a man in Victorian clothing, seeing a pattern here, by the way, sitting at a table near the windows saying, "I saw the most beautiful woman here last night, and I am waiting for her to return." I hear a ghost start talking to me, and I will yeet myself out the window. Just saying.
Really? I mean, it would be a little startling, but as long as they're not threatening me personally, I'm just like, oh, that's cute.
In hindsight, that'll
I
be
don't think
my
she's
reaction
coming,
to
though,
it.
buddy.
But like in the heat of the moment, if like some freaking specter starts speaking in my ear holes, I'm gone. Like my body will just make the decision for me and yeet.
I'm one of those like freeze in place, don't know how to like function in those types. So I just be standing there like, I don't know what I'm going to just stay here and act like I'm invisible until this is over. That's probably what I would do.
Thank you.
Thank you. A cook at the hotel by the name of Steve Garrison swears he doesn't drink alcohol on the job, or at all for that matter, but there have been a few instances that he was tempted. One morning, while he was chopping and preparing vegetables, he looked up and saw a little boy with pop bottle glasses dressed in old-fashioned clothing and knickers skipping around the kitchen. Another time, he flipped on the lights as he entered the kitchen to begin the day's preparations when some or all of the pots and pans came flying off their hooks. On the 3rd floor, where the hotel connects to an annex built onto the hotel when it was a hospital, there is a recurring phenomenon that happens where multiple guests have grown faint, some of them passing out briefly at the same stop on the nightly ghost tour with no reasonable explanation. Sometimes, many occurrences will happen over weeks or months. and then none at all for a while. The guests just turn pale, fall against the wall, and slide down the wall in a faint. These spells don't last long, and they recover quickly, but there is no explanation as to why. Many paranormal investigators have come to believe that limestone has a special ability to absorb and release electromagnetic and psychic energies. Well, guess what Crescent Mountain, the Hilltop Hotel, sits on, is predominantly made of? The massive 18-inch thick stones used for the body of the hotel were made of limestone. A Facebook group with over 22,500 members called the Crescent Hotel Ghost Tours is where members of the group share their own personal stories and photographs of their experiences during their stay at the hotel.
These ghost tours have produced some spectacular tales. The guides of the tours themselves have countless paranormal stories from their time at the Crescent Hotel. One guide recalled that she had met a couple who was staying at the hotel on the first floor near the governor's suite. They told the guide that on their second night in the building, they had slept with just a sheet covering the two of them. The husband woke in the middle of the night drenched in sweat and discovered that someone, or something, had tucked them in with a comforter. This happened 2 or 3 more times that night. Another guide stated that an incident occurred where 2 guests checked into room 221, and upon leaving the elevator to the second floor, they were greeted by a man wearing an all-black Victorian-style outfit. They said he asked them if they needed assistance finding their room with a smile, and they thought he was a hotel employee, so they agreed. He led them to room 221, unlocked the door, and let them in. The man remained outside as they went in, smiling and tilting his head back and forth. One of them realized they hadn't tipped the man, so when they turned back around with some cash, he was gone. They spent the rest of the afternoon in their room, but later that night when they tried to get back in, they couldn't. The door wouldn't budge. So they headed to the front desk to get some help. The employee there discovered that they had been given the key to room 321, and they didn't have anyone employed there with the description of the man they had seen.
The visual of him sitting there smiling, tilting his head back and forth is creepy AF.
I love it.
Yeah. No, thank you. I'd be like, thank you so much. Shutting the door now. Please go away. Goodbye. Ooh. Of the places we've talked about on these Wicked Wednesday episodes, the Crescent Hotel will be the easiest for you to visit if you feel the need to check out some paranormal activity for yourself. During your stay, you can check out the ghost tours available that range from $15 to $30. The Crescent Hotel Walking Ghost Tour starts you on the 4th floor of the hotel, where you learn the tales of the most haunted hotel in America, telling the stories of our resident spirits in the places where they happened and ending in the dreadful Norman Baker's notorious morgue.
And that's a direct quote taken from the website, by the way.
Yes, hence not ours, the hotel's. They even have a kids' ghost tour of 45 minutes that will introduce the Crescent Hotel ghosts to children ages 5 to 12 that starts on the 4th floor and ends after a visit to the morgue. I love that so much. The expert and extended ghost tour is conducted by the most senior guides and extends to include tales of Norman Baker, while the expert tour is conducted by the senior Crescent experts who share the stories of special spirits at the hotel. Oh, man.
I do think it's kind of entertaining that they have, like, literally a special, like, kids ghost tour to make it a little more... Because I bet, the parents staying there with their children, they want to go on, like, the expert ones, and kids probably don't need to be hearing all that jazz. So they can
go on, like, a fun, more lighthearted one, but still hear the history of the hotel and, like, hear about...
still be involved.
The spooky happenings of the place. I would love to go. That sounds so fun. And it doesn't seem scary haunted.
It seems more just, like, entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
and not like to the point of like they haven't done with the hotel what, like Villisca has done. But I mean, Villisca is kind of a whole different beast, but Amityville, it's not like,
it's not
sensationalized in the wrong way.
No, and it doesn't sound like it had as dark of a history either. I mean, the fact that this guy was like, oh, I can cure your cancer, but he wasn't lobotomizing patients or doing any outlandish surgeries or, he was just lying to make a buck. And I'm sure people died because he wasn't actually helping them. But there wasn't any like crazy, cruel happenings going on.
Well, this only scratched like literally the surface.
Yeah.
There's so much more that we could have gone into about it. Like they don't really know what he did to them. Like, and with those bottles that they had discovered, I think I'd mentioned this to you before, like after, it's been so many years, like they did find a pathologist that was willing to conduct some testing on it. And it was determined that it was like blood clots and some other like tissue in there, but it wasn't from your typical surgeries and stuff. It kind of seemed like it had come from wounds, like debridement of wounds and stuff like that. So that's weird to have that in the hotel and much less buried out in the property. But I still think that there are probably some pretty pissed off spirits there.
Oh, yeah.
Because like they were freaking dying of cancer and he was shoving watermelon seeds or extract of watermelon. Like that always stuck with me. Like what is the benefit of watermelon seed extract? I don't know. But it doesn't seem as nefarious and evil as, Poveglia and Villisca.
Exactly. Not at least outright. And the idea of seeing people like dancing in a ballroom in Victorian wear sounds pretty sweet.
I always say that I was born in the wrong time and like that'd be a cool experience to kind of get and like they still have like that Victorian feel throughout the hotel, so you still get that nostalgia from it, but you've also got like indoor plumbing and the good stuff, electricity and
oh yes.
Yeah, the good things.
Yes, the good things
that we take for granted in life.
Yeah, the good things from modern day. No, I love it. I think it's awesome. Let's go.
Well, we have finally reached the end of our Wicked Wednesday episodes, and we really hope that you enjoyed them just as much as we've enjoyed presenting them to you. Sometimes it is fun to take a step back and talk about something a little different. Shoot us an email at weirdtruecrime@gmail.com and let us know if you wouldn't mind a future episode of Wicked Wednesday without having to wait until next October again. I think I mentioned it before, but we barely scratched the surface of these places, and there are so many more that we could talk about.
We also hope you enjoyed the special bonus episodes from our friends at the Darkcast Network to give you even more spooky goodness. We have mentioned it before, but we have some really special episodes coming up, and we can't wait to share them with you, where we got to sit down with Julie Murray. Her sister's disappearance has still not been solved, and we just want to help her spread the true facts of what happened and dispel some of the inaccuracies that have plagued their family. So stay tuned in the next couple of weeks. Until next time, stay safe
and make good choices. Bye.
Bye.
We in medical science are cancer is one of the most deadly and elusive enemies faced by man. All too often, it is that goes untreated until at last it is found that cancer has been present for many months.
My name is Max Churchill. I'm representing Norman Baker, the cancer quack.
Good evening, my friends. The more I see, the more I know. The more I know, the more I understand. The more I understand, the more I can no longer remain silent.
And this man thought he could cure cancer.
I feel like Norman Baker was a very intelligent man trying to do something good, even though it turned out badly for him.
He was against big business, against big medicine, against big government.
As the much as this pains me, my dear friends, the more I feel the need to share this with you. I have been investigating the American Medical Association, and the only conclusion I can draw is that a more appropriate name for the AMA is the Amateur Meat Cutters Association. These so-called professionals are not looking out for your best interests. They're not trying to cure you. They're only interested in one thing, keeping you as a patient so they can continue to bill you.
He was way beyond his time.
He loves life, but nobody's going to tell him what to do.
So I knew all about Norman Baker, good and bad.
The medical establishment profits from its treatments, but not from cures. They have reaped a harvest of millions of dollars annually from needless cancer operations, radium treatments, and x-rays.
Norman Baker was a charlatan and a notorious cancer quack. That's who Norman Baker was.
The opposition to my cure is understandable.